Okay, well, good morning, everybody. In this webinar called Quality for DevOps Teams. And we have organized this webinar together with Tesena in Czech Republic. And thank you very much, Tesena people, for inviting us to do this together. My name is Rik Marselis. I'm a Principal Quality Consultant at Society in the Netherlands. And I have been involved in IT, quality engineering, testing for quite a long time. And in that time, I've been also working together with Tesena several times, doing training courses, and we meet each other at conferences. This morning we will tell you more about quality for DevOps teams. And when I say we, that is together with my colleague and also an author of our new book, Wouter Ruigrok. And Wouter, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. My name is Wouter Ruigrok. I'm an agile quality coach for Society in the Netherlands, which means that I'm helping different organizations and teams on quality engineering in an agile or DevOps context. I've been working for Society now for 10 years, always in the QA and testing area, and also mainly from the start in agile development environments. Working a lot for financial organizations, but also telecom organizations, so different types of companies. And today I'm also hosting together with Rik this webinar, and let's look at the reason why we introduced this book and what we saw in IT delivery at the moment. And we see a couple of challenges happening there. One thing is that we see there's a high pressure on organizations or on teams to deliver business value. It's not only focusing on IT, deliver IT solutions, but it's really the scope of business value. And also to deliver that at speed. There's a high pressure on delivering in short time to market, but still with sufficient quality. So deliver quality at speed is one of the challenges that organizations face at the moment. If we look at the teams, then we see a couple of things happening there as well. We see that quality engineering is a team responsibility now. It's not only a single tester or a test team who is responsible for doing the testing work, but the whole team is involved in quality and delivering a high quality product. Therefore, also QA and testing should be integrated in people and in the process. So it's not that we at the end establish the quality, but it should be really integrated from the beginning, that we do it built in. The third thing that we see is a high focus on cross-functional teams. And that means that you're not responsible for only build or for run, but now as a team, you're responsible for you build it, you run it. So you have to maintain also the products that you develop as a team. And the second one there is we see a high focus on automation. The slogan a lot of times is automate everything. We would like to add there as long as it's useful, but there's a big focus on automation here. So that are a couple of things that we see changing in the markets at the moment and that teams and organizations have to deal with.
Yeah. And then when we started off with a renewal of our TMAP body of knowledge, we created this model, the so-called voice model. And the idea of the voice model is that it all starts with business value. Like Wouter just explained, companies ask for business value, and that should be delivered using IT. So the broad scope of the voice model is business delivery. The first step is to define what kind of value is needed. And then within the scope of IT delivery, first you define objectives. So what are the objectives that IT needs to fulfill to be able to deliver business value? And after these objectives have been defined, then you need to measure whether you are really meeting these objectives. And measuring these objectives is done using indicators. And actually this measuring of indicators basically is done by testing. So testing and some other quality measures are used to get information about reaching these objectives, and ultimately all this information is used by the stakeholders to establish their confidence that the pursued business value will be achievable. So at the moment that they think about whether they have enough confidence or not, obviously the actual business value isn't there yet because the IT system is not yet operational. So it is about this go, no go decision. And you think, do we have enough confidence? If there is enough confidence based on these indicators, then the IT system is put in use, and then in real life the business value will be experienced by the business people and the customers. And based on this experience, there is this value improvement loop in which new ideas for additional business value come up, and that is added. And if you work in a DevOps way using Kanban, you can go through this value improvement loop multiple times per day. If you use, for example, Scrum, you typically have a 2-week sprint, so then this value improvement loop would be every 2 weeks. And if you work in a more traditional way, then it may be that you only go through the loop once a month, or maybe even once every 3 months or so. So the voice model basically always applies, but also can help you transition from one to the other IT delivery model. And why is it called the voice model? Well, probably you already figured out that the starting letters of value, objectives, indicators, confidence, and experience together are voice. So this voice model is the foundation of delivering business value. And very important there are the indicators. So we have defined 4 groups of indicators, and actually there are very many different indicators possible. In our book, I think we describe 1.5 pages of examples, and still you can find more yourself. But at least you need indicators from these 4 groups. The first one is business value related. Obviously, you want to know about the business value. And we give some examples. I won't read all of them out. The second group is IT delivery related. So how good are we in actually delivering both new and changed parts of the system, but also in just delivering the IT service to the customers. So you see some indicators there. And we have team related indicators, because you also want to know if your teams, which may be agile teams or DevOps teams, are adequate in actually delivering what should be. And that is partly about skills. Do we have the right skills in the team? But also partly about satisfaction and happiness of the team members. And the last group are the problem-related indicators, because, of course, things may be wrong in an IT system, and then it doesn't matter much how many problems there are, but very interesting is how good is the organization in fixing problems. So do we have an expected number of problems, and not too many at least, but also how quickly do we fix them? And all of this is related to quality and quality risks, because the information about quality and quality risks is what we need to establish the confidence in the pursued business value. And keep in mind that there are many, many different indicators possible, but you better have a short, properly followed up list of indicators with, we always say, somewhere between 5 and 10 indicators is more than enough, because otherwise you just have too much time needed for measuring and follow up and all sorts of that kind of things.
Yeah, then I'll tell something about IT delivery models. Rik mentioned when talking about the voice model that it applies to multiple IT delivery models. We distinguish 3 different types of IT delivery models. The first one is sequential IT delivery, which a lot of you probably will know as more traditional waterfall fee model, where phases follow each other one by one. Second model that we distinguish is high performance IT delivery. And there we see Scrum and DevOps as examples. And the third one is a hybrid IT delivery. And that's a combination of the first 2. For example, demand supply or the skilled agile framework. Sometimes people might ask why is safe in hybrid and not in high performance. But you see there a lot of times a combination of more sequential in the top layers of the safe model, and the iterative high performing in the lower layers of the model. So that's why we put that in hybrid. If we look at the scope of the book, then it's focusing at DevOps, as the title also suggests, of course. But that's the main focus for the book. The whole body of knowledge of TMAP is you can find on the tmap.net website, and there you can find information for all types of IT delivery models. So if you want to know something about the other models and how you can apply quality engineering there, then you can look at the website. If we go into detail of DevOps,
you would need more things to get this solved, Maurice. It would need a solution in cold staging because you can't solve it in MuleSoft.
Can you go on mute, please, Rin?
And
Rin, you are not on mute. Can you please mute yourself?
Yeah, he did mute himself. Thanks.
Okay.
If we look at DevOps, then we start with the 6 fundamental DevOps activities, which are plan, code, integrate, deploy, operate, and monitor. And what you might notice is that testing is not one of the activities, and that the reason for that is that we find that testing and quality engineering should be integrated in all these activities. So that's why we didn't put it as a separate activity in this DevOps Infinity loop. But these are the 6 fundamental DevOps activities. Besides these activities, we also distinguish 6 DevOps principles. For example, customer-centric, so it's really client-oriented, end-to-end responsibility of teams, continuous improvement, and also here the automate everything you can principle, for examples. These 6 principles come from the DevOps Handbook, and Rik is holding it in front of the camera now, which is written by Patrick Dubois. Patrick Dubois is also the person who has wrote the foreword of our book. So we're very proud that he also contributed to quality for DevOps teams in that way. If you Google or discuss with people about what the definition of DevOps is, you find a lot of interpretations and a lot of different varieties. So that's why we also in the book put our opinion or our vision on the definition of on DevOps, and that's focusing on that it is a cross-functional system engineering culture with an agile mindset and can be used with the Scrum framework, for example, and it integrates all necessary skills, so security, test, business. So all other variations which you sometimes see, like BizDevOps or DevSecOps, we include them in the overall term of DevOps. A lot of things in DevOps are concerning the team, and Rik will tell a bit more about the team.
Yeah, because we strongly believe in having cross-functional teams. And with a cross-functional team, we mean that the team as a whole takes responsibility for delivering the right quality and delivering quality at speed. So it's not a multidisciplinary team where everybody has hit their own function and they only do a specific type of tasks, but it's a cross-functional team where everybody in the team is allowed to pick up any task. Of course, they should be capable of doing the task. But let's suppose you have somebody with a strong operations background who is currently doing a testing task, and while doing that testing task finds an anomaly and then decides that this is an easy to fix anomaly. So the same person picks up the development task, changes the code, and then does a retest and then changes to the role of tester again. So the same person picks up different roles. Of course, the team as a whole is responsible for quality. So if this person has done testing, found an anomaly, changed it, then they will do a pull request to somebody else in the team so that somebody else can check the change, so that the team as a whole takes their responsibility for quality, and then the same person can release it to the live situation, for example. So nobody has a monopoly on certain tasks, and the team together is always capable of doing all the tasks, although we know that sometimes you have very specific tasks. Let's say if you need to do a specific security test, then you may also want to involve people from outside your team for a short time. And of course, we found this nice acronym, together everyone achieves more. And that's really what working in a cross-functional team is all about. So that's a short intro of the renewed team app, quality for DevOps teams. We explained to you the three parts, and it's mainly about quality engineering, which is taking responsibility together to deliver the business value at speed. Now, we like to make this webinar interactive, and we'll use menti.com. By the way, on this slide, you see the four main authors of the book. On the sides, you see Wouter and myself. In the middle, you see Dennis Geurts, who is a system architect, and Berend van Veenendaal, who is a backend developer. And we together, as authors of the book, also worked as a cross-functional team because we have different backgrounds, but together we created the result. Now, this book is as you can see, is quite thick. It's about 400 pages, so we can never tell you everything about the book in just 1 hour. So what we'll do is we ask you what you would like to hear most, and we'll use Mentimeter for that. So please take out your smartphone or open another browser screen and go to www.menti.com, and there you are asked to enter a code, which is this code, 8572608. And then in the meantime, I'll explain to you what you can vote for. So we have 4 subjects that you can vote for. And the first subject is, what are the topics that are relevant for quality engineering in today's IT? And we have described 20 topics in 2 groups, organizing topics and performing topics. And we would really like to tell you more about these topics. Also, very important is monitoring and control and reporting and alerting, because you need to inform your stakeholders because they need to build their confidence. So the whole thing around reporting is important. Then, of course, in DevOps, we already said automate as much as possible and use a CI/CD pipeline for that. So that's test automation and pipeline. And the last topic is typically interesting for people with a development background, because it's about unit testing and also about mutation testing. And mutation testing is actually something I had not heard of before Dennis and Berend joined our authors team with their development background. I thought I knew quite a bit about testing already, but mutation testing was new to me. I see so far 17 people have already voted, and it's a close call between the CI/CD pipeline and monitoring and control. Well, what Wouter and I will do is we will discuss the first and second voted subject first, each about 10 minutes, and then we still have about 15 minutes left for Q&A. And one of your questions might be, tell us more about the last subject. So we'll try to make it as interactive as possible and answer all your needs. So I see 19 people have voted now. How many participants do we actually have? We have 27, so I'm not sure if some more votes will be coming in. Let's wait for, well, just a few moments to see if more votes come in. Otherwise, we'll. It's really it's a tie between monitoring and control and the pipeline.
And that's the first. It's such a close call between.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, what we didn't tell you yet, but we do these webinars quite regularly. But such a tie is nice. What I propose, Wouter, is okay. Oh, now somebody votes the monitoring and control up again. Well, let's quickly start and let's try to do all three of them. So. May I suggest that I start with the QA and testing topics, then and Wouter fills in if necessary. Then we'll do the monitoring and control, and then we'll have a little look at the time. In the meantime, if you already have questions, then please put them in the chat box, because we have a nice chat box here. So then we can also see what other questions come in, and then we'll decide whether we will have some important questions or we'll first do the test automation and pipeline. With that, we close the poll and go to QA and testing topics first. So, when we started off renewing TMAP, we noticed that there are quite a number of activities that are needed to do proper quality engineering. And if you have a huge list of activities, that will not really work. So what we did is we grouped them together in so-called topics. And I'll show you all the topics right away. So finally, we came up with 20 topics, which we call the QA and testing topics, or also the quality engineering topics. And they are in two groups. We have the organizing topics and the performing topics. And organizing topics typically are related to multiple teams. So if you are in a larger organization with multiple teams, for example, you want to make a quality and test policy, and that's typically something that is done across teams. You don't want every team to make their own policy because that's not what a policy is for. So organizing is across teams, and performing are the things that are about the operational tasks, the things that people do on a day-to-day basis within a team. So the performing topics are more related to the product that we are created and the activities that are done within a team. Recently somebody came up to us and said, oh, I already get it. Organizing is what we used to call test management and performing is test engineering. Well, that's not totally true. At first, it is about quality engineering, which is broader than just quality assurance and testing, because it's also applying quality measures in other engineering activities. For example, pair programming is also one of the measures that can be applied, and there are multiple. But also, take, for example, the first performing topic, which is quality risk analysis and test strategy. That in sequential IT delivery, that is typically a test management topic. But in our new setup, it is a performing topic because these quality risks are related to the product that you're building. And the test strategy is about who does what, again, related to the product we are creating or changing. Because in DevOps, mostly you change an existing product. Now, of course, it's not totally black and white. Take, for example, estimating and planning. We put estimating and planning in the organizing topics because you would like to have some similarity in estimating and planning across multiple teams. On the other hand, the actual estimate and the actual planning are, of course, made within the team for example, for a sprint. So it's not totally black and white. But these are the 20 quality assurance and testing topics, and they are relevant basically in any situation. But some of the topics you work with on a day-to-day basis. Let's take test execution. You will probably do that every day, whereas quality and test policy is typically something that you look at once or twice per year, and that's enough. But none of these topics can totally be ignored. So everything is of importance. And then, of course, came the question, how do these topics relate to DevOps? Because, well, we also thought about how they relate to other IT delivery models, but in this talk, we would like to focus on DevOps. And how do they relate? And then we could ask you, where do we connect these topics to the DevOps fundamental activities? And then actually, you cannot one-on-one connect a topic to a fundamental DevOps activity, because all these activities relate to one, well, typically two or more of the fundamental DevOps activities. So therefore, we created this picture that should make clear that all topics are important if you are doing your work in a DevOps setup. And I see a question coming in from Eric. Is that a valid decision-making strategy about the topics?
Yeah, I've been reading the question as well, and it was not clear to me exactly what he means there. So maybe, Erik, you can put on your microphone and explain what you mean with your question.
Yes, of course. It was just a joke because there were two topics with same preferences from listeners. So it was hard to create decision.
It was about the voting for the Mentimeter. Oh, okay. Nice. All right, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Erik. With that, I think I'll end the part about the QA and testing topics, and we'll continue with monitoring and control. And Wouter, would you like to pick up this part?
Yeah. When we talk about monitoring and control, especially and also combined with reporting and alerting, a lot of people think reporting and alerting is something which is done only in sequential IT or in traditional IT delivery, but that's not the case. It's also in high performing environments. It's still relevant to do in a proper way. And if we look at monitoring, then what we want to do is create continuous monitoring. So throughout the whole six DevOps activities, we want to create monitoring, and the CI/CD pipeline is also helping there and supporting. In the bottom of this picture, you see continuous integration and continuous deployment covering 4 of the activities, and that's also where you can build in your continuous monitoring, which contributes to continuous quality and testing and continuously generating insight about what is the quality of our change of our product at the moment, and to see, okay, are we delivering the pursued business value? So monitoring should be something which is done by the teams constantly and should really be integrated in the way they work, creating dashboards to make information visible, use tooling to gather information and to present it. So when something is monitored and information is gathered, you can organize adequate control, that you can respond to things that are going off key at the moment that they happen. So you can react them and correct them if needed. If we go into the more reporting and alerting, then it's still also important to look at, okay, who is the audience of the report? If it's more at team level, then we will probably create a more detailed report about, for example, a automated test run. You want to have every detail about which test case failed and why, what happened exactly. So that's for the team itself to see, okay, what's the underlying cause. If you look at more, for example, product owner level, they want to have more overview about how is this feature progressing, or how are we doing on sprint level? Are we still on track to complete everything which we planned for this sprint? So that's the overview report. And the third one is high level report. And that's, for example, management or other stakeholders. They want to have high over information about the product and the process, and to see, okay, are we still on track about quality, about the risks that we identified and covered, and of course, if you look at process, look at time-wise or cost element. So there are different types of reports that you can still use in a DevOps environment. A nice example is also on this screen, is the confidence monitor, which is gathering a lot of different types of information and tells something about the confidence we have in the product that we are delivering at the moment. So do we feel confident enough to go to production with our new release or our new feature? And it's visualized in this confidence monitor, to see how are we progressing.
And if I may add to that, in a typical confidence monitor, you combine multiple indicators to get this confidence level. So previously we already described that you work based on indicators, but you probably don't want to report 5 or 10 different indicators. It's much more nice for your overview report to combine all these indicators in one confidence level, and that gives people quick insight. And of course, they need to know that behind this one confidence number, you have a lot of other indicators that can substantiate more details. So that is about the high over reporting, monitor, control, and reporting, and of course alerting, because if there is a reason to do something, then an alert should be sent to the proper stakeholders. Looking at the time, what shall we do? Shall we do the pipeline and test automation first and then go to the Q&A?
Yeah, I think that should be doable.
Okay, in the meantime, still, if you have any questions, put them already in the meeting chat. But then first we'll continue with the test automation and pipeline story. And when we were writing the book, we investigated a lot about pipelines. And the first thing that we noticed is that a lot of pictures that people show us if we ask them about their pipeline is a picture that only has logos of tools. So it looks like a pipeline should be a number of tools that are glued together. But actually, of course, there is a concept behind all these tools. So what we try to make visible is first to have this pipeline concept. So in our, let's say, small setup of a pipeline, because most pipelines are more complex like this and have multiple stages, but we have brought it back to the basics, the fundamental parts of a pipeline. And the pipeline consists of two parts. On the left, you see the continuous integration part, which is also known as the build pipeline. And that is within the scope of one team. So everything that happens within a team is in the build pipeline. And it starts with the source stage where, for example, code is created or changed. The build stage where stuff is put together. And then we have the team test stage where all testing is done that is within the scope of one team. So imagine you can do your unit testing, you can do integration testing, sometimes even parts of system testing within the team test stage, because that's all within reach of your own team. Then, if it is good enough, so it meets, for example, your definition of done, it can be deployed to the release pipeline, which is also known as the CD part. And CD can be continuous delivery or continuous deployment. And in our definition, the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment is that with continuous delivery, you have automatic delivery to other environments. And with continuous deployment, you have the ultimate automatic deployment to the production environment. Let's first look at deploy for business test stage. So if you have something ready in your build pipeline, it complies with the definition of done, then you deploy it for business test, and then we come in the business test stage where you test from a business perspective. So it's not necessarily business people doing the test, it is the business perspective. Often that is the end-to-end business process, and especially if you work with multiple teams in your organization, then you cannot have just one team testing your whole end-to-end business process because you need multiple teams involved. You may even have a specific team that is responsible for end-to-end regression testing. If your business test stage also shows that the new or changed system is okay, then it can be deployed for production. Well, if this deploy is automatic, then we talk of continuous deployment, but it may also be partly manual. And also in the business test stage, there may be some manual testing like exploratory testing. So even when you use a CI/CD pipeline, it is not forbidden to do manual tasks, although you try to automate everything that is useful, of course. Then, very important in a pipeline is continuous monitoring. Wouter already explained about monitoring previously, and it's also about the feedback loop. So as soon as somewhere in the pipeline it appears that something is not working well, then we have this feedback, we go back in the pipeline and fix the problem because the pipeline should always be okay. And that's also why we have this continuous testing throughout the pipeline, because in every stage you check the quality and get the quality to the required level. And I emphasize the required level, so you don't always need the highest possible quality, you need the right quality to deliver quality at speed. So sometimes low quality at the right moment is better than high quality too late. So that's also a balance to find with continuous monitoring, continuous feedback, and continuous testing. Now, I was already talking about these pictures with all these tools, and here on the right side of the screen you see an example with a lot of tool names, and I don't expect you to read all these tool names, because what we found is that a lot of teams, they focus too much on the tools and too little on what they want to achieve. So therefore we have described that you need to look into capabilities. So what is my pipeline, should it be capable of? And these capabilities are then listed. So for example, within continuous integration, we need a capability for code review. And then we look for a tool that is able to do code review. But we also need other tools. And then what you will find is you approach it from this angle with using these capabilities, you have two advantages. One advantage is some tools are able to deliver multiple capabilities. So then you need only one tool to cover multiple capabilities, whereas people just glue the tools together that they know, often have duplicates in their pipeline. Well, this helps preventing these duplicates. Second thing is, tools are changing very often. New tools pop up, old tools go away. So you want to have a view. If some tool, a new tool comes in, you can check what kind of capability does this tool have. Okay, then we can use it. We'll take out another tool and we put in this tool. So capabilities are very important to make a solid but also logical setup of your pipeline. And then, and I see a question coming in of Afshan, what all build stage includes? Where are code scan and unit testing placed in this pipeline? Very good question. So unit testing is obviously in the team test stage, and code scans are in the source and the build stage. And we already found that it depends a bit on the implementation of your pipeline, whether it is already in the source stage or in the build stage, and it also depends a little bit of the tools. But these are definitely quality engineering activities that are in the build pipeline. So I hope that answers your question, Afshan. Then two other models that we also use and have described in our book. One is the testing pyramid that you have probably heard of before. And the testing pyramid helps you to make everybody aware that you should start your testing, and especially your automated testing, as soon as possible. So if you automate testing, try to automate as many tests as possible in the unit testing stage, so that's early in your pipeline, and test as little as possible using a GUI-based tool during your business test stage. But also don't forget that manual testing needs to be involved, partly from an end user perspective and partly manual testing by the people that set up the automated testing. Because as you may know, when building an automated test, you also do a lot of testing and reviewing of quality. And some people, especially managers, tend to forget it. They want to make testing cheaper, and then they say, we'll buy a tool because then testing is more easy. But actually, if you buy a tool, you have an extra problem, because then you also have an automation project for your testing. Test automation is often related to regression testing, but keep in mind that also testing of new things and change things can also be automated. And therefore we make the distinction between regression testing and progression testing. And we didn't see the term progression testing very often before, so we like to make you aware of that, so that you distinguish your testing in progression testing for new and change stuff and regression testing for things that should not have been changed, but you want to be sure about that. Another model that's often used related to automated testing. Bottom right side, you see non-functional tests. For example, performance testing, security testing, and whatever, to assess the quality of the product. Anything that I forgot, Wouter, to mention about the whole pipeline and automation part?
No, I think that you covered for now main things. And Daniel already put in the chat that, of course, this webinar is too limited in time, so we can't go into every details, but the cross-functional teams training we go into even more detail here. So yeah, if you want to know more, then I think that training is a very interesting one to join.
Okay, we will. Thank you for that, and both Wouter and Daniel. And I'll at the end briefly show a little bit about the training courses in a minute. But let's first go to the questions. So I see a question coming in: the importance of exploratory testing to be included. Well, definitely, yeah. We are very strong believers of the importance of exploratory testing, which should both be part of the team test stage and of the business test stage. Of course, you should try to limit the exploratory testing to the things that really need to be explored, because in our definition of testing that we also have described in the book, we distinguish verification, validation, and exploration as the three main components of testing. And verification is checking whether things comply with actually what is described. And that can be largely automated, if not totally automated. Validation relates to fit for purpose. And sometimes the fit for purpose goals are very well described, and then you can automate it very much. But also some things may be implicit. So it's not really described, and you need some exploratory testing for that. And exploration is about what other things could be done using the system. And for exploration, of course, exploratory testing was invented. So thank you for the question, and I hope I answered it correctly. I see a hand raised by, this is Tal, I guess?
Yep.
Well, go ahead, Tal.
Well, first, thank you. Always it's an interesting presentation. I just want to ask, since, well, I think 20 years at least, people are talking, since we are moving into advanced methodologies like starting with Scrum, Agile Scrum and others, people talk about losing the place for testers. And at first, when I saw the presentation, testing was not there, but Wouter said testing is part of everything. And at the end, I think what you're saying is testers as a professional people focusing on testing are still important in this cycle. Maybe different skills and different approaches, but they're still important as testers, not as developers who are doing testing as well.
Yeah, well, our view on this, and thank you for this question because it's a very important subject, is like I explained with the cross-functional team, the team as a whole should be capable of picking up all tasks. That means that everybody in the team should at least have some knowledge of all the things that are going on. But nobody can be a specialist on everything. Yeah. So you will have people with different backgrounds. And it is ideal to have some people with a development background, some with an operations background, and of course also people with a testing background. But the testing tasks are not limited to the people with a testing background. So developers and operations people also should do some testing tasks, and maybe the testers will also do some operation tasks or some development tasks. But the testing profession still remains very important. So does that answer your question, Tal?
Yes, very much. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the question. Any other questions? I see in the chat, Rien is entering something. On the confidence trend, I see measurement on weekly level. Should it be continuous? Oh yeah, the confidence monitor was an example of a weekly confidence monitor, but it could just as well be a real-time dashboard. It depends a bit on what kind of indicators you measure and how often you can measure them. Typically, the confidence monitor is made up of several indicators, and some indicators are measured continuously. But one of the indicators may also be the confidence level that people have. So you may do a survey amongst users and ask them, what is your confidence? And well, probably you can't do the survey 10 times a day. Yeah, so probably you'll do a survey once a week or something like that. So it depends a little bit on your indicators that you capture, how you would do that. Even kijken. We still have about 5 minutes, so we have time for 1 or 2 other questions. A question comes in from Maros. How, as a tester, can I inspire, motivate the whole team to keep more quality, do more testing within delivery when I am the only tester in the team? Well, maybe Wouter, for you as a Agile quality coach, would you like to start answering this one?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of things that you can do. First of all, I think it's very useful to start the conversation or the discussion within the team about, okay, what does quality mean for us, and what do we define in quality? And so asking those questions during team sessions helps already create more awareness within other roles. And a lot of times my experience is that people do have an opinion about quality, and if they are involved in this discussion, then they also are more motivated to contribute to it. What helps a lot if you're, for example, want to involve developers. They are enthusiastic about automation, about technique. So if you involve them in setting up test automation, for example, then you can relate it to their work field, and that's also what interests them. So my experience is that with the use of test automation, you can also really good effectively involve developers in QA and testing activities. The third one, and for now I think the last one is, and it's also a little bit relating to the addition that you put in the chat now. The developers, they don't like to do rework. They want to create nice things, and they don't want to work twice on the same story or the same feature. So opening the conversation with them and starting the discussion within the team. Okay, how can we prevent rework? And that involves also quality measures, including testing, is also making the work of a developer more interesting and more joyful, because they can focus on really creating new things instead of fixing problems in existing software. So not try to keep away about the blaming culture. Okay, who introduced the fault, or where was it originated from? But more focusing, okay, how can we prevent them in the future, and how can we make sure that we can focus on creating new things instead of spending time in fixing. So that are a couple of tips or things that I do with teams to get people involved in quality and in testing.
Okay.
Rik, if I may answer the last comment from Maros about the blame. First, you need to tell the developers over and over again until they understand you are not writing code. They're writing code. They're introducing the defects, and it will work. And if they want to do things, if they don't want to redo things, as Wouter said, they should listen to something else I learned from Rik some years ago. Do things right the first time.
Yeah. What I would like to do now is first finish off the webinar for the people that need to leave. And then for other people, if you still have other questions, we can stick around for another couple of minutes for that. So let's first look at the end. Well, we thank a lot of people from 11 different countries that contributed to the book, because creating a book, of course, is not a work of only 4 people. And we would like to inform you about the training courses. And if you would like to know more about the whole TMAP certification scheme and the possibilities, we have 4 training courses, but basically the upgrade training courses for people that already are certified for TMAP from a previous certification scheme. If you're new to TMAP, then we advise you to start with the Quality for Cross-Functional Teams training course, which is a 3-day training course, including a exam on the last day. And this training course, we organize it together with Tesena in English on the end of March. I think it's 28, 29, and 30 March, but you can look it up on the Tesena website or on the SociD website. And if you then like to go in more detail, then we have the High Performance Quality Engineering training course and the Organizing Built-in Quality at Scale training course. And we put there, they are for performing people and organizing people. And of course, this refers back to the organizing topics and the performing topics. So the emphasis on these 2 training courses is more details about the 2 different groups of topics. Now, if you would like to, oh, sorry for a pop-up. If you would like to know more, you can visit the website, or you can become a member of the TMAP LinkedIn group. I will share the slides with Tesena, so they can also put them or send them to you or make them downloadable. Also, this webinar should have been recorded, so you can share it with your colleagues and friends. And with that, we come to the end of this webinar. If you have any questions, here are our email addresses. Feel free to contact us. And with that, we are at the end of the webinar, but Wouter and I still have a couple of minutes. So if you have other questions, please go ahead. Or maybe if Marcel or Phil want to say something, you're welcome to put on your mic and say something.
I think Marcel left. At least he mentioned that he had to leave, so I think he
oh, okay.
left.
Any other questions? Well,
thank you, Rik. Bye.
Well, you're welcome, Tal. Well, if there are no new questions, then thank you all very much for attending this webinar. It was our pleasure. We hope it has inspired you to implement quality engineering in your DevOps situation. And well, we hope to see you in the future somewhere in the wonderful world of TMAP, and maybe you can join our training course at the end of March. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.